Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Hello, everybody. This is the Self-Worth Talks. I'm Suzanne, and I like to have these conversations with people about self-worth, about their journeys, and about how they incorporate all of that into what they do for work. And today, I'm really excited to have a colleague, a peer, Gail Kulas, here with us. Thank you. Welcome for being here, Gail.
Thanks for having me.
No, I'm really excited to have this conversation. Gail is a consulting coach and has her own company, Leading to Unlock, which I'm going to let you explain to people exactly what it is. But it's really so relevant for today's world of work and developing a new culture of, I guess, collaboration and supporting individuals within a group, a team. But anyway, it's fascinating to me, and you are so amazing. Before you start talking about what you're doing now, I usually ask people to tell their story a little bit about how they got to where they are. And because I think it's so relevant for people to see that, you know, we start in one place and what we do makes us move into the next situation or the next chapter in our life. So I'll let you take over now, Gail, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, great. So I'm if we go back many, many years, I have been working towards this goal of what I'm doing now for most of my life. I've always been someone who likes to learn. And through that learning, I've acquired a number of qualifications, degrees, certifications. I have 2 master's degrees, one in entrepreneurship and innovative practices, which is an MBA, and I have a Master of Science in information and communication. Those two really complement each other because I get to use information to help people with making decisions. So my background has been in a plethora of different industries, and what's been really great is being able to understand how these industries work through understanding the processes and systems, and then helping each one of the corporations that I've worked for improve those systems, remove waste, and save millions of dollars. And I get to tout that I've saved companies over $75 million through this process that I go through. And it's not just about the processes, but it's really about getting to know the people and understanding how we can help break down their barriers to add more value to themselves first and foremost, and then how that value translates into company value, either in their current company or in their future company, or maybe in their own companies. So it's kind of been my journey. I've taught, just to further add to that, I also teach at community colleges. I've been adjunct faculty, but I'm also a full-time faculty at Northwestern Connecticut Community Colleges, which has recently become one of the community colleges under CT State. So I have degrees, like I said, in education, but I also have several in the process improvement world, Six Sigma, ISO 9000, blah, blah, blah. You can read all of that on my website. But that's a little bit about me. And then just to segue into where I am now and why I'm doing what I'm doing is I feel it's really important, and it gives me joy to help other people. And I can do that in a way that helps them unlock their potential so that it becomes their own. And it's not something they have to depend on me for. It's something that they can build from their core of who they are, what they stand for, and then moving that forward. So I hope that answers in a long-winded way your question.
Quite a journey. So it's like everything that you've gone through is really what you're teaching people, like, you know, really knowing your value and your what you do and how it helps people. You're trying to get them to see all of that themselves in these individually or in a company. And right. So you used to work for people and now you have your own company. Is that what happened?
Correct. So about it's probably over 10 years ago, I got in a car accident. And during that car accident, I had a brain injury that shook my neural pathways up, and really helped me refocus. As you know, because although it was traumatic for me, um, people could have had so much worse of an accident than what I had, but it shook me up enough to realize that I was working for other people, doing what I wanted to do as an independent person. So when you introduced me as a consulting coach, the reason I've defined that differentiator is because a lot of coaches ask fabulous questions, and unlock some of that inner wisdom within each other, within ourselves. Then we're not really sure what to do with that information, especially if you're a business owner. So now I know I've got this problem, I recognize it. Now I don't know what to do with that information. So what I do as a consulting coach is we identify those opportunities, and then we talk about and define a strategy to move forward. And not only do that for individuals, but as business owners, we tend to get stuck on certain things. And sometimes it's just really great to have a sounding board, but someone who has the knowledge and the experience to help us move forward. So that's what I do in Leading to Unlock. And I offer a ton of consulting hours, but I also do this through some programs that we have built, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But those are some of the things that I do in my own business called Leading to Unlock.
That's interesting. So the consulting gives more direction as opposed to the coaching, which is more asking questions and helping people uncover who they are as individuals or even as companies.
Right. So that sounding board consultative approach, once we've identified what the roadblocks are. And sometimes people come to me already knowing what the roadblocks are. They're just not sure how to unlock that roadblock to move forward. And so through my experience, I can just ask different questions, but then we can develop an action plan to move forward. And we generally work in 90-day increments, so they can get together with a 90-day plan for themselves, and then they can move forward. And then I'm here again if they need any support along that way. But this way, they have an opportunity to really, get to the root cause of what's causing them, that roadblock.
So do you think that since COVID, the way companies do perform and try to grow has changed? Or do you feel like you're seeing the same kinds of issues now as you did before? That might be that's a big question. You can answer that however you want.
Oh, sorry. I'm not sure that I would say that the business problems are all that different, but I would say the awareness for risk management and longer range strategies and being able to pivot, and diversification is more relevant and more at the forefront of people's minds. So as you know, with COVID, pizza shops became, they used their pizza ovens for, different types of, preparation for COVID related, PPE, or, sewers came a lot of dress shops and stuff like that. They had the seamstress skills, started making face masks. So I think as much as COVID was a tipping point, for lack of a better word, for businesses, I think it also opened up such a new way of thinking. And I think the other component that's really changing business a lot is the integration of AI, and how that's going to transform businesses and education, for that matter, in both a positive and maybe not so positive way. So I'm hoping there isn't going to be even a larger surge of criminal activity and behavior. But considering, my face isn't necessarily going to be my face, it can be a computer generated image that learns who I am and how I move and using my hands, and it just gets to take on my persona. I think we can use that from a learning perspective, but I think it also might be something to, maybe further ignite all of the not so good business practices out there. So we'll see. I'm optimistic.
I know that every change and new technology that we have, this is like massive. There's always, the opportunity to use it in a negative way, but there's also so much that could happen in a positive way. So I'm hoping that it continues to go in that direction and develop, and it really changes the whole culture of businesses now. And you talked about risk management, and I've been hearing that when it comes to all different kinds of companies and even like medicine, but it's a whole different world right now where there's more uncertainty. And so people have to like either take a risk or really be left behind. I imagine that is difficult for companies, something that would be relevant for you to help them with.
Yeah, I think having, you have to have a risk tolerance, which is one of the things we talk about. So what is your risk tolerance? What are the regulatory, excuse me, the regulatory requirements that you have for your business, like the things, the non-negotiables. And then there's the opportunity, really think about, what risk am I willing to take? And how do I thoughtfully plan for that risk? I mean, if you have a financial advisor, they help you with that, with the financial components. What I help folks understand is prepping for that financial advisor conversation. So, and especially if you're a business owner, what is your, what is your plan for if something unforeseeable happens to you or you become incapacitated? Who takes over for you? Do you have a succession plan? Because even if you're a solopreneur, you have to understand what your succession plan would look like, and how do you put those systems in place? And when I talk about systems, I talk about not a computer system necessarily, but more so the way we work. So what happens if, right? And when someone like myself, who was the major breadwinner in our family, with my corporate job, and I got mentally incapacitated for a period of time. Thankfully, I worked for a corporation where I had a fallback, financial plan. But a lot of us, as business owners, we haven't thought that far in advance. We're really good at what we do. And there isn't anyone to take over my business. There's lots of consulting firms out there that can, clearly take over clients. But what is my plan for offloading my clients if something traumatic was to happen to me? So thinking through all of those types of things is what I help businesses start to prepare for. What if all of my systems are people dependent? If I have single points of failure all the way through my system, I have a really great production manager, but what happens when he retires? Or what happens when he hits the $1 billion lottery? I like that better than getting hit by a bus. What happens? And that's what I help businesses start to think about and then thoughtfully plan for. So risk management's a big topic, but it's very individualized for the person and individualized for the business if they're a business owner.
It makes me think about the other thing that I think that you do, which is developing the people who work for you to be really participatory in the business and have a stake in it, like have interest and shared values and all of that, so that it's not just you doing everything. Obviously, as a leader, you want your company, your people to take on some of that. Can you talk more about that and what you think about it and how you help people with that?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things we work with at the very beginning is identifying the core values of, if it's an individual, we talk about your core values, what gets you up out of bed in the morning, what keeps you motivated all day long. And we talk about that in great detail. And as a business owner, you know, furthermore to your question, is we really talk about the core values of, you know, why did you start your company? Or if you're leading a team, you know, why are you there? How do the company's core values align with your personal core values? Once we understand that, and they understand that, then we start to talk about leadership behaviors, right? What are your leadership behaviors? Because you can only be a leader if you've got followers. And you can lead by, you know, stick, or you can lead by carrot, or you can lead with a combination of both. But each one is situational. We talk about situational leadership. So this situation might require you to do this. This situation may require you to do this. Do you have education, training? Have you done role plays? So we do that with the leadership teams of organizations, bring them under. We do assess each one of the leaders to the core values. You know, we look at performance. Does the company even have performance indicators? And by that, I mean, you know, do we have goals for our company? Do we want to hit a certain number of sales? Do we have performance development goals for our people? What systems do we have in place to do that? And, you know, I can throw out a bunch of terms. This is called a balanced scorecard. But really what we do that in a soft way so that it's more meaningful. And yes, we have this tool and we can fill in all the blocks, but it's more about the conversation and having those courageous conversations and being open to being vulnerable. And we have confidential conversations. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, I had this great conversation and I want you to hear all about this and the struggles and all this. There's a confidential umbrella that comes around this, but we work it in a way that becomes a company message, and it's done in a structured way. But for those who don't like the word structure, we can do it in a way that's your style. It's more so about getting that information out of your brain and into the hands of you and your staff and the people that work for you. And it gets integrated into your recruiting processes, your how you interview, the questions you develop, how you do performance evaluations, what do reviews look like? Are people measuring up against those core values? How are they measuring? So there's a lot that goes into it. However, it is about making a cohesive and communicative team that's all going down the same stream at the same time. And I help the leaders set that agenda in a way that matches the organizational culture.
It sounds like that's exactly what everything I've been reading about companies and what is going to make a company successful right now, and retention, what's going to keep people there, and is to have them feel more valued, have more input, a better relationship with their leaders, or, you know, people, with everybody, but especially their managers. God, it sounds like exactly what is trending right now, and I think recommended for healthy companies to be able to be sustainable. And yeah,
well, because not everyone's motivated by money. So as leaders, it's our job to understand the people that work with us and for us, and what motivates them. And not everybody's motivated the same way. So by understanding that and how that matches the values of the company, you get people there that want to be there. And the ones that don't want to be there, we either find them the right place in the company, or we help them find another place. And we use our networks, because if the person is valuable, they come to work every day, they add value, but they're just not happy. And by the way, I also coach company owners and managers. We're not responsible for our employees' happiness as a business owner. Which I know everybody's like, oh, we have to make them happy. Happiness is an internal. Gail has to be happy to come to work every day. And the only way Gail's going to be happy is if Gail, the employee, has work-life balance that makes her happy and her values are met, and She doesn't have financial worries because her job isn't paying her enough, but she's working hundreds of hours, so she doesn't have a balance in her life. Getting to understand how and what motivates each employee helps you blend that in. And if money is something that's a motivator for folks, but they're not adding value in the other core items, then we have to have a performance conversation. And all of those evaluations happen in a human way, using really great human techniques, because there is no company without employees. And that means there's somebody who answers the phone and they're happy to be there and they're excited and they cannot wait to help the next customer. The guy or the lady on the production floor, they have to know that their quality of their work matters and that when they come to work every day, it adds value for them. You as a business owner has to make sure that that matches. So that's our job as leaders. And that's what we talk about a lot with I talk a lot with the owners about is, when was the last time you met Jane down on the shop floor? When was the last time you called yourself? Did you call yourself and find out how you're treated? How many times were you transferred? So all those little techniques are things that it's not about bashing the employee. It's about learning about the systems that you have in place as an owner of a company and how do they add value to your organization. And if they're not, what are you going to do as a leader to help infuse that behavior into your organization? And as leaders, that's what we own. That's not our employees' job. Our job is to set the direction and support them in that direction moving forward. And if we're not doing it, that's an us issue. That's not a them issue. And I use those, very, very candid terms. I'm a candid consultant. We work through roadblocks. I am not someone who just comes in and tells you everything that's wrong with your company. I look for you to tell me what's wrong with your company. Then we investigate and we confirm or we find out what the real issue might be. And it might just be you have one really negative Nelly or negative Ned in your department, and we need to do something about that. We need to find out why are they so negative. So, and that's a long-winded answer to your question. However, there's just so many facets to embedding that worthiness factor, that self-worth factor into your organization. And you have to lead it from the first. So if you're grumpy and you come in grumpy and you start yelling at everybody, it sets the tone for the day. So if you've had a crappy day at home, you have to take a little drive around the block. You need to come in and you need to be ready to lead in a way that people can respond to. So, yeah.
A question I want to ask you, but I just want to comment on that. It is hard to always be that optimistic, fresh, ready to go, positive leader.
Yeah.
It's really, I know it's really hard. People just have to do the best they can because we're human, like you said, the human factor, and then just keep learning like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said that.
And then go back and apologize. Just humble yourself. Yep.
Yeah. And then apologize, be role model. The thing you said also is investigate. And what made me think about that is, as a therapist, people, sometimes they don't really get something until they have an experience in the therapy session that helps them see more about themselves. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with people? I know you have a whole system, a whole process to help them not just sort of talk the talk, but really understand who they are, how they're interacting, how it might be holding them back. Like what is get them to
so I use Lego bricks.
Okay.
I use a lot. Another certification I have is in Lego Serious Play, and it's called Serious Play because there's a psychological component to playing. It gives your brain hands. So here's an example. Here's my bricks. So I have a 5-step program. I hate to be kind of moving around. Zoom kind of messes things up here. But I have a 5-step program that I do with business owners, but individuals can come through, maybe some leaders in training, whatever, to start to understand the values. So we talk about the core values of the leaders, leadership behaviors, a lot of the stuff we've talked about already. in our first session, and each session is 4 hours. And then, and we do this once a month. So it's basically a 5-month program. But during that time, you leave with actions to take towards your business or to you individually to work on. And then during the month, you have some coaching time. So consider this my consulting time. And then my coaching time happens during the 30 days that you're off working on the action plan that you've developed out of each one of those 4-hour sessions. And when I talk about Lego bricks, I know this is just kind of, although this is a 3D model, this is just a representative photo, right? But what we do is we actually use bricks to unlock that potential through storytelling, directed, facilitated storytelling. So we might say, hey, you know, if I was a regular consultant, I would say, all right, we're going to do a SWOT analysis, right? We're going to talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we're going to drill down into those. But what we do is we build strengths. We build them using bricks, and we talk about what those strengths are. And it unlocks something in your brain, and by having a 3D model that says, wow, these are my strengths. And by having to do the story, and everybody has to speak at these sessions, so you talk about those strengths, and then other people get to know something about you, and they then reflect at the end of that storytelling experience and say, wow, you know, when I met you, this is what I thought about one of your strengths were. Because then people leave with a more in-depth opportunity to understand their strengths, because there's the perception of those strengths, and then there's what they consider. So the learning experience is more enriched than it would necessarily be, all right, write down 5 bullets that you think are your strengths. It's not about that. It's about the play experience and the psychological unlocking of, you know, bringing play into your life. And adults, we just don't play anymore. We don't come to work and say, wow, I cannot wait to go pick up my bricks today and think about what I'm going to plan for the day. And I'm going to lay out my 3D plan, because these are the things I promised myself I was going to get done. And now I'm going to be able to take these 3D models and move it forward. And we do that thoughtful planning, and we, and each one of these steps. So we talk about the targets, we talk about understanding the systems, both what is our daily operating system, how do we, you know, what's on autopilot, what needs to have, you know, more of a microscope, what are our internal computer systems, how many clicks does it take me to answer a question if I'm on customer service. One of the companies I worked for, the customer service people had to go to 20 different systems to answer a question, but their goal, one of their performance measures was how long they were on a call. Well, if each screen took a second to flip just to answer a question, and your time was you had to get a call off the books in 30 seconds, you couldn't even answer the question, and they never got their bonuses. So how motivated were they to provide really great service, right? So it's things like that we start to talk about. Then we integrate the plan. So what does that plan look like? Who's going to be in charge? Who's responsible? How is that put into their performance plan? And then, of course, how do we navigate the course? So what does our next year look like? And how do we set our 90-day goals? So it's comprehensive, but it's fun, and it's hard fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of work, and you are mentally exhausted when you walk out, because you have to peel back that onion. I'm sure, just like with you in your therapy sessions, having those aha moments are, you know, that's when you're like, oh, I made a difference today. And that's how excited I get about this stuff. As you can see, I get very animated. But we do different things. We have individual ones for transformational leadership. We have some that are built around teams. So you can just send a team member, maybe you have a new leader, or maybe you want to, you know, customize something for a whole team. And we have different levels of these. They don't all have to take 4 hours or whatever. But that's what it's all there. And I can certainly customize something for your specific team. Maybe you just need an event and you want something fun. You know, I can do something like that, but that isn't Lego serious play. That's a building event. So I like to differentiate the difference between the serious play and having something fun at a team meeting.
I love this idea of the play because it taps into your creative abilities, which I imagine is like so powerful for teams. Like to be able to open up and think outside the box a little bit and come up with new ideas, and it also it taps into, you said it's hard on your brain, right? It's the neural pathways that you are unlocking that or creating new neural pathways. So it's fascinating.
And what's really fascinating is something I may consider a strength, somebody else, it really ticks them off. And it gives them awareness to why you consider it a strength, and it helps them be less judgmental. So we have very specific rules, behavior rules, when we do these sessions, right? And it's not about being judgy. This is about really understanding each other, especially in the teams, and understanding where we think we add value individually and how others see us adding that value. Because, you know that my strong personality sometimes can rub people the wrong way. I own it. I tell everybody right up front. I have a strong personality. I also, when I'm thinking, I look up, and it's not that I'm not trying to make eye contact, but when I'm processing, I look away. So I didn't want people to think that I wasn't. So there's a lot of awareness factors in the nonverbal communication that people aren't aware of until they start to play. So my directness sometimes is a strength, and it is also a weakness depending on who I meet. So my awareness to that is really important for me to communicate differently. And that just really, when I talk about unlocking the potential, hence my name of my company, Leading to Unlock, it's really about that. It is about sharing where we have commonalities and understanding where our differences are so we can communicate more effectively. And, when people ask me, what's your product? What do you sell? I sell structured common sense. I do. That's what I sell. I don't have the answers. I help unlock those answers through questioning, through exercises, through my experience. But you have the answers. If you wanted to know how to build your business more, I would ask you questions. You'd come up with that. Well, this is what I need to do. All right, now let's talk about the plan to help you get there. And how would you like to check in? So no, I think the processes we all go through on how we get our work done aren't all that different. And really, I help companies understand what's a policy, what's a process, what's a procedure, right? The policy is, why do we have to do this? Is there a legal reason? Is there, is there a company policy? Is there a regulatory requirement? We have to do this, right? So sexual harassment training, that's a policy. Well, the policy is sexual harassment. The process is, we've got to go through training, blah, blah, blah. And then the procedure is the how we're doing it. So policy is the why we do it, process is what we do, and the how becomes the procedural working documents. So there's really only about between 5 to 7, maybe 10, depending on how complex the industry is, processes in a company that make it run.
Interesting.
Right.
What I love is that you're taking all these this business knowledge about what makes a company run with and helping people shift it to be more human, with a human with awareness of individuals, who they are, and that's really makes a company much more alive. I think people who approach those companies can probably feel it and are drawn more toward it.
And generally, we're drawn to a company that matches our core values. But when I work with individuals, and when I'm in my teaching, when I'm working with students, and individuals, it's more so about you're interviewing for a job as much as you should be interviewing the company to see if you want to work there. And if you haven't taken the time to understand what motivates you, your core values, how the core values match, sometimes you just need a job. I get it. You just get a job, you just do it. Your long-term happiness and your ability to feel like you're adding value, your values have to match. And if they don't, you're not going to be happy. So, I think that that's an important piece for people to really consider.
I think young people, I mean, a lot of times we don't understand that until we are more mature, but the more we can try to educate, the millennials about that, the more they can make informed choices and also take that, because the younger people are now being promoted and becoming managers like at warp speed. It's crazy. Like I have a 25-year-old son was in charge of a team, and they need to understand all of that, values and self-awareness. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not just about understanding it from a textbook perspective. It's
Right.
also around, think about all the change management. Again, another certification I have is really around, I now insert a 25-year-old manager. I've been at the company for 20 years, and this kid knows nothing about the company, the knowledge, or any of that. So I have to look at myself in the mirror and say, all right, what is this 25-year-old going to do to add value to the company that I'm not doing? How do I learn from this 25-year-old? And how do I, as a 60-year-old, understand the value that this person can add to the company and to my life, right? And if it no longer adds value and you can't see it, and no matter what you've done to kind of think about your mindset on that, then you have to think about, wow, I'm 60. I may need to only get 5 years more out of this company. So I'm going to be the best employee I can be until I can't be that employee anymore. So I have to think about managing myself out. And those are things that are hard choices. And we can blame the 25-year-old. The fact of the matter is that we may not have, as a 60-year-old, made ourselves relevant anymore. We didn't learn about computers. We didn't spend time learning about AI. We don't understand social media. I don't know what TikTok is, or the new X instead of Twitter, right? I'm not staying relevant. And that's a me thing. That's not the 25-year-old new manager. But the job could have changed. So if I'm not staying relevant to the job that's now being in the marketplace, then one, I can't leave. I'm stuck. And the feeling of stuck is horrible. So I need to figure out how I'm going to make myself relevant until I don't want to work anymore. And then what does that look like? And that's where you have the opportunity as a young person, this young manager, to start thinking about, how do they hook up with a financial advisor at 25 so that they understand the relevance of the 401k system that their company offers? How do I plan and thoughtfully plan through my career, and when do I want to hop? And am I staying core to my core values? And what am I going to do to get there? Sometimes they just trample over people to get there, and that doesn't leave a nice wake behind you, and you will be found out sooner or later. But it might be too late for you. So, those are the things that I think, I'm sure with you as a mom, your son has very good core values and has very good work ethic. And I would say the same about my kids, but I don't know that folks that didn't have parents that were present, during this time. I think I was listening to a study the other day, and they said that the millennials are the most dishonest, and lie, not only dishonesty like on your resume and all of that, but they will lie to you, and they're very good at it. And you don't know that you're being lied to, and then you're found out. So you have to build so many more processes in for that scanning phase. And I'm not saying that's a true study. I mean, there were 6,000 different people across the world interviewed, I think was the stats. But stats tell a story that you want to be told. So this is where your interviewing process, your recruiting process, how do you train your recruiters to ask questions that can uncover some of that? What does your hiring process look like? Do you do background checks? Do you validate the information? Do you check their references? It's not just about getting a warm body, because that warm body could totally could make you on the front page before you even knew it happened. So I think as business owners and people that are and hiring managers and company leaders, it's important for us to think about that. And people lie. So I'm certainly not calling out the millennials, because I have some millennials in my in my chain as well. So, but if that's not a core value, if honesty isn't a core value, and you don't ask questions about it, and you don't get them to do critical thinking in front of you on that question, shame on you. So those are where when I talk about candid conversations, that's where we have that conversation. What system do you have in place for recruiting? How do you find a dishonest person? What questions do you ask?
Right. And it's such a big topic, right? Like,
Yep.
but I wonder too, and this is another whole conversation about millennials and how they came up and what is different about how they were raised, and also with, the COVID and how that shaped things. But I feel like the millennials might be trying to tell you more what they think you want to know or hear. And for some reason, they feel like that's even more important than we might have before. And I'm not sure why, but I like to look at everything as having a positive reason why they do it. Maybe it's not a good thing, but there's a reason, and wanting to be accepted or belong or be valued, something like that. I'm not sure what it is.
No, and I think you bring up a good point. I think, our judicial foundation is we're innocent until proven guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to have the same mentality when we look at a person. I talk about diversity in my HR classes. My definition of diversity is someone different than me. So when I look at someone, I have to, again, we trust our gut sometimes where, something's not right there, but we have we have a hypothesis. It's our opportunity to figure out whether our hypothesis is true or false. If it's false, then it gives us a new piece of insight. Our brain is built on building patterns, right? So there's been a pattern in my life, where if I shake somebody's hand and it gives me a bad vibe, I kind of retreat a little bit, and then I appear to be off-putting. But there's something about trusting your gut a little bit. But I don't take that as, oh, I'm just not going to have any relationship with that person, because your gut's not 100% right. But there's been a pattern established in my brain that I now need to reframe and then think about it. And that's where, I think we've become very judgy through our lives. And as those neural pathways, as get created, our psychological, our intelligent mind says, oh, I have a pattern. I shake somebody's hand and it's weird. That person's going to be a criminal, right? However, I can be tricked as well. So my new thing is I just accept people for where they are now and where I'm at now. And then I have to figure out what relationship and value they would add in my current state or in the future. And what can I do to help them if they need help? I've spent some time over the years, recent years, looking at human design, which is a whole nother topic. But I think what's interesting is to understand, a little bit of that metaphysical stuff, which I used to go do to. And I'm really starting to embrace some of the things that, where life's put us and why we're there. And we just need to kind of think about that. Why am I here? Why am I experiencing this pain? Why am I experiencing this joy? What can I do to move forward from here? And how do I just internalize some of that to make me a better person? And I've met some fabulous people such as yourself during this journey since as I'm unlocking my own potential, because I'm certainly not someone who is going to throw stones at a glass house, because I got my own baggage. But I have a lot to offer some folks if they want to give me a call and talk through some things. I don't pretend to be a psychologist, but sometimes I tend to be a business therapist and just help people get all that stuff off so then we can help reframe and refocus. And I think that that's one of the things I do, and I can pat myself on the back and say I do well with most people, not all.
Well, I think the description of yourself as a business therapist sounds so perfect, because you're not just working with systems and numbers, you're working with people, and you're looking at them as human beings and helping them grow. That's what therapists do. So if there's anything you can, last words of wisdom for us about, I don't know, working in a company or having a business, and how to develop and lead, any direction that you can leave us with.
Well, I think if I was going to kind of sum up 3 key things that we talked about today is understand who you are and where you are now. Really think about where you want to go in the future and what investment you've made in yourself to move that forward. Education, certifications, training classes, and how do you budget for that? I'd say the second thing is as a business owner, look yourself in the mirror, understand where you are right now, what your current state of your business is, and where you want to take it. And is what you're doing still energizing you and working towards your core values? And are you hiring that way? Or are you just putting warm bodies in places and it's causing you to have to work harder? And then I would say the third thing is just have some fun. Spend a little time just really meditating. I hate to use that word because sometimes you just your wheels are turning too fast, but I would say take some mindfulness time. And I mean by mindfulness time, understand where you are now, get grounded. And then I just watched a video by Mel Robbins. It was a quick little snippet. It was one of her reels. It says, just let it be. If somebody's aggravating you and something's not working out, just let it be for a little bit, germinate on it, and you'll find the answer. And if not, give me a call and I can help you.
Those are great words of wisdom. Well, thank you, Gail, for all you've shared today. And I know you have a book coming out, so people can go to your website and maybe just follow you. And how can people find you?
Yep, hopefully. Yeah, we're once I finish interviewing a few more publishers and I make a decision, we hope to publish in the early winter, so January, February timeframe. So, well, fingers crossed. It's on my bucket list.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like
if you haven't, buy Sue's book, because it's been very inspirational to hear some of the self-proclaimed stories that her folks have done. And if you haven't bought that book, it was really a turning point for me to hear other people's stories. And sometimes you just find something that's just the right key to turn the knob on the door. So I hope to say that I'm going to be as acclaimed a published author as yourself, but I'm going to be there.
I'm sure your book is amazing, and thank you. Yeah. Well, so people can find you at, is it leadingtounlock.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Excellent. And I'll put that in the notes. So.
Okay, great.
And I'll have you come back and you can tell us more.
All right. Thanks, Suzanne.
Talk about.
All right. Perfect.
All
Talk
right.
soon.
Well, thank you, Gail.